What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Zebec today, ZBCN. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. Surprise, surprise, here we are, up 21.5% on the week already. 6 days, 6 hours left in the week here on the 16th of June. We actually have 5 hours, 24 minutes in the day. You made a miraculous move up. I would say miraculous might not be the right word. Well-earned move up. I don't know. It's not miraculous. It was kind of expected, right? Looking at this here, I actually want to see what's ZBCN's volume. Decent volume. Not crazy. 10% or more is what I like to see on a move like this, but that's still fine, right? The fact that you don't have 10% or more of your volume, I don't think it's a big deal, but maybe that's an indication that that you won't reach these targets that we were looking for at about 0.0055 or higher. Perhaps what you're doing is finding resistance at other places. Let's look at this. Let's take a deeper dive into this. Okay, so looking at this on a 1 hour time frame, okay, yeah, you do have bearish divergence. Unfortunately, look at this. Over the last few hours, the most volume you've seen have been on these very unproductive candles. You might be turning around here, guys. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but I'm thinking that we're front running these very obvious selling areas. I think this is what you might be getting, right? This very well could be it. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going down. That doesn't mean that you can't go up to those areas, but just be aware this could be the high at the moment. It very is possible. Relative high, right? I mean, obviously, you're going to go up higher than this in time, but just relatively speaking, you might go down first. If we're looking at this here, come on now, from a high to a low. High to a low. You're right at the 0.5. A lot of cryptos have been respecting their 0.5 lately, man. And it is a rather bearish indication to reject the 0.5 in this kind of fashion with this bearish divergence and lack of momentum as your volume's increasing. That's not what you want to see. Volume increasing should equal price increasing, but you're being held down. Why? You probably got a sell wall. There's probably these prior areas of resistance that you're focusing on instead of up here. They watched my videos, the market makers, and they're like, damn it, he's on to us. We're not going to push it that high. We got to sell here. Everybody else is going to think it's going higher, so we're just going to sell it here. Maybe it goes higher. Maybe I'm just giving myself too much credit. It really could go up, and don't be surprised if we do go to 0.0555 to 0.058. Anything and everything in between there is possible, but I think at this point in time, I am starting to consider this as the high. So I'm going to call for that as the high. Let's see. Let's look at the 15-minute time frame. I could be wrong. I really could be wrong, but what we'd have to see in order to invalidate me is that we move down to the 382 at about 0.0475, and then we move back up. If we move down and then we move back up here, I would assume we do go to the golden ratio top off there, okay? And maybe we do that tomorrow. We move down a little bit by the end of today, and then we move back up tomorrow. That could happen, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if this was the high, okay? If it sounds like, well, are you calling it to be the high or not calling it to be the high? I want to know. I don't really know, man. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But if I had to guess, yes, at this point in time, I'm calling it the high, yes. If it goes up a little bit higher to my original call that I had back down here, would that make me upset? No, whatever. Do that. That's normal, whatever, and then go down. But at this point in time, yeah, I'm not assuming that we do go higher. Just because of this bearish divergence here, it's pretty severe bearish divergence. But if you get a proper reaction, you bounce off the 382, you bounce off of prior areas of support, and you return back up to these prices, I would assume you continue higher. I would assume you do. So look for that, right? If you want to prove me wrong or inevitable, however you want to look at it, it doesn't matter. Who cares about being wrong or right? I care about making money. You can be right more times than you're wrong in this game and still lose money. You can be wrong more times than you're right and still make money. It's not about being right and wrong. It's about risk management. It's about controlling your emotions, guys. That's what it's about, okay? Genuinely. Prove me wrong. If that sounds crazy to you, you haven't leverage traded. You haven't traded enough. You can be right 9 out of 10 times, and that one time you're wrong, it screws everything up. You lose everything you made in those 9 times being correct and then some if you don't have proper risk management. You can be wrong 9 out of 10 times, but if you have proper risk management and that one time you're right, it makes up for all the losses. That when I discovered that in itself is what taught me that being right or wrong, it doesn't matter. That's why a lot of these guys, if you find a YouTube channel and somebody, and don't get me wrong, when we're right about some bold calls and it happens, we're proud, we're happy, don't get me wrong, there's that, of course there is. You want to be right, you don't want to be wrong. Nobody does. But when you find YouTube channels where their whole existence is just proving how right they are all the time, they never address when they're wrong, but it really means a lot to them that they're right, that should tell you that they're very inexperienced with technical analysis and they don't really understand how markets work, right? They don't understand risk management, and they're probably going to get you wrecked, right? Because again, being right in itself is not valuable. You need to have risk management. That matters a lot more. But yes, I think you'll reject here. This is probably your high, your lower high in this range. You're going to start working your way down now, guys. That's the expectation. It's been fun, ZBCN. Thanks for giving us a green day, but probably going to the downside. You are overbought. You are at the same area that you rejected when you were at your all-time high here. Probably going to come down. Does that mean that it's going to be a rapid decrease? No. You could, kind of consolidate. Maybe you move back up. You find some resistance, consolidate. Slowly go down. But I will say, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a massive reversal today or tomorrow, because rejecting that 0.5 tends to promote some massive reversals. Actually, it tends to. Let's just see. Low to high here. 0.5. Boom. Fast to the downside, right? Fast. This is kind of what I'm talking about. Something like that. That's kind of what I would anticipate. And if we see that, that will just validate. And also, it'd be better if that happened, I think, because you want to get done with this downward move sooner than later. You don't want it to be a slow, drawn-out process, right? If you're going from point A here to point B here, right? You want it to be like this. You don't want to take all this time to get down there, guys. You want it to be quick. So pray that it is a fast, just course of repercussions that happens here to the bearish effect. We'll see if it is, but I think it will be. The expectation still remains, right? We're going down to 0029 to 0034, somewhere in that area. 0034 here at the 1414. It's very common when rejecting the 1886 to the 200 level. It's very common to reject this area and go back to the 1414 and bounce off it directly. It's also very common to go down to the 1272 and find support there. 0034, 0029, something. Either of those areas, I would actually think that either of those lines are more likely than finding support somewhere in this zone. But let's give it a zone. Sure, zone. I would think if you're below 0033, because depending on the chart, it's like 0033, 0034. If you're below 0033, I think at that point it's inevitable you are going to 0029. But it's possible you could find support in anywhere in this range, right? There might be so much buying pressure. This is a heavily anticipated project to do well. There might be so much buying pressure you don't reach down to the 1272, even if it looks like you should or that you're going to. I very much do expect that. Today looks great right now. And even if you close here, that's awesome. Even if you close higher, that's awesome. But tomorrow is probably going to be a bloodbath. And the following days will probably be a bloodbath. By the end of this week, you'll be back down here or lower. You might even be at lower lows. And then going into next week, you should be looking for that low. I think that you will find your lows next week. Best case scenario, you find your lows this week. Wouldn't that be nice? Because then next week, you can move up with the rest of the markets. You don't have to keep moving down. But that's all I got for you guys. I think I've made my point. I think I've said everything that I need to say. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Good job for all the people who took it upon themselves to make this a tradable moment. It was a very obvious trade, and that's some decent growth here. I mean, even if you bought the highs, since we talked about the idea of this thing moving up, you're up like 18% right now. But by the time this video comes out, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. If we go up to that original target area of 0055 to 0058, cool. But I wouldn't be surprised with the given circumstances if we reverse from here. Again, increasing in volume. This is on Bybit too, the exchange that has the most volume for ZBCN. Even if it's perpetuals, it's still the most volume based off of trading. You've got lower highs here with higher highs and bearish divergence on top of that, man. I mean, these candles looking like this with that kind of volume, that doesn't excite me. That doesn't excite me at all. That makes me scared actually for this thing, right? Like here, you got some volume here. Look at that. And you have these wicks. What'd you do? Right to the downside. And you're in the same area that you were back there even. So that's all I got. I'm going to end this video so that we can put this information out there before the dump happens. Good job. Take care. Buy the dip. Bye-bye.